All right, what do we got going on here today? I'm going to give you a twofer video. I have two original Kyosho Javelins here. One of these is in really beautiful shape. It has a lot of aftermarket parts, gold Nerf bars, gold shocks. They're all period correct. The gold motor protector, just everything on here is really nice. Even the roll cage is really nice, except what they did, unfortunately, is they sheared off the wing stands here, the things that hold the wing in place. And that's unfortunate because these things are just worth a heck of a lot now. So what they ended up doing with this when I first got it is they put two posts on the chassis itself and, and put the wing with the wire on the two posts. So I can understand why they clipped these, but I wouldn't. I mean, that's too bad. But it's quite all right because this has a lot of hop-ups on. We're going to replace this because we have the other one here that actually does have the posts on it. That's original as well. So this, with all the hop-ups, it's got reinforcement on the front. It's got a nice bumper, with no wear on it. This thing is just in a really nice shape. So we're going to pretty much leave this intact with the roll cage, except this is chain drive, and that's how they came, 4-wheel drive chain drive. I also have a nice set of wheels and tires for this. So this isn't going to take much per se, sort of, because this is chain drive. And the reason I point that out is this one here has a belt drive option. Hard to find. Really nice hop up. The transmission is a little bit different because of the belt drive. So, this also has problems with the roll cage. It's broken here, which is a shame because it's an original. But we might be able to fix that. Not sure yet. But at the very minimum, we'll take this original piece off with the little wing things here and put it on the other one. So that we'll make the other one complete with a true vintage roll cage. And I'm thinking of using the belt drive on this other one that has all the hop-ups already. So that will be completely, hopped up out of this world. I'm gonna leave that as a Javelin. What I plan to do with this one has a problem with the roll cage. It's missing pieces on the roll cage as well on the front. So I'm thinking, take the roll cage off of this one completely and make this one an Optima, a Kyosho Optima 4-wheel drive. The Javelin is based on the Optima 4-wheel drive. They're basically the same cars. The only difference is the Optima 4-wheel drive has a body instead of the roll cage. So that's what I'm thinking. Take this whole roll cage thing off of here and just make this one an Optima 4-wheel drive, and I'll get a body for it. The nice thing about this one, it has brand new wheels and tires, but they're not the right ones for it. I might leave them on for show since there's so many other things going on with this that make it non-vintage, so to speak. I do have original wheels and tires that I can put on it for the Optima. So we'll see how that goes. The shocks, they're original shocks. The only difference is that they're usually red, but the anodizing was taken off by the previous owner. So they are Kyosho, but there's no anodizing. So I might just go ahead and polish these up. I would try re-anodizing them red, but it's just probably more effort than it's worth. So I'll probably just polish those up. But outside of that, the rest of the car, the rest of the buggy is pretty intact. All the pieces seem there. Like I said, that belt drive is awesome. There's not too much wear on the bottom. Has a really nice motor guard on the back. So yeah, this is an aftermarket chassis, and I can tell already, and it's a nice, clean shape. I have a vintage one that I might just substitute it back for. I'm not sure. If we're gonna just kind of keep the shocks the way they are and kind of build this up as a Optima 4-wheel drive with, some non-original looking parts on it, maybe I'll just leave this chassis on it since it's so clean. So we'll decide that later. So that's why you see two Javelins here. I'm basically gonna make one badass one with all the parts of the two, all the hop-ups, belt drive, everything going for it. And then I'll make an Optima 4-wheel drive out of the other one. That should be pretty period correct with a few little things, but that way I'll have both versions in the end. So you are going to get a twofer here. So we're going to start taking these apart and we'll go at it. All right, so let's get at this. First things first, let's get rid of this roll cage and start taking this thing apart. Okay, I think I'm going to leave this intact for now. Let me see. The other Javelin had, so I want to keep the belt drive, right? And let me see how much I really need to deconstruct this in order to keep the belt drive, and how much of the other one I can just, pop on here, just the way it is. So let me see what we've got here. So this other one has this silver or aluminum sides, not the gold sides. It already has the metal bracing for the, so we'll have to take that out of this one if we did that. Has a chain guard underneath. So, yeah, I think we're gonna just have to continue to take this apart in order to get that belt drive in there. So not going to be as easy as I thought. We're just going to have to take the whole, I think we're just going to have to take both of them completely apart. So let's just do that. Okay. I should really take the whole thing apart anyways, just to clean any pieces here. So let's not get lazy. Since this will be ultimately the Optima 4WD drive, I think I'm going to also replace all the screws with Allen heads. on this, I want to leave this intact because this is in good shape and it's already on here. And I can pull this out, take out the tranny, but I'm going to leave this intact as well. That belt looks really, really nice. So I'm going to just go ahead and take off this. In order to do that, I have to take out these pins. So I can leave that on just the way it is. I don't need to clean these up. The railings look super clean already. The belt is already in place with the trannies. So I'm just going to take the gold parts off of the other Javelin and put those on here instead. So let's do that next. Okay. This is screwed onto the shock tower here, so I'm going to have to take this off in order to get to that. I have to take this off anyways because this is going to go onto the belt drive. So let me see what the easiest way to take this off would be. I have to unscrew these bottom screws here, it looks like. So let's start doing that. Take this out right here. It's not being too cooperative right now. There we go. Boom. All right. We're going to go ahead and start putting this back together for the belt drive. So first things first, we need to get our rear resituated again here. Should probably clean this up a little bit, but yeah. This will go back into place this way. Start driving this guy in like so. The reason I took out those two screws is I wanted this this tube that's in this chassis, and it wasn't in that chassis, and I want this tube to reinforce the chassis, so that's why I took this out. So we're now going to put it in this one here, and it goes right here. And like I said, I wanted to start using Allen heads, but we're gonna see, before I start doing that, I'll just put the original screws in, and then we'll look at the Allen head, taking them back out and putting the Allen heads in later. So I'm gonna do this for now, this way. I think I needed to put this back in before putting the axle back. Like I say before, learn from my mistakes. It's too quick to put this back. have these screws here, and then this guy here screw in like so. So I'm going to clean this up before we start putting this thing any more back together. Need a screw for this. Yeah, interesting on this guy here. It looks like they broke a screw off in here. That really bites, a big one. Well, so I got this fixed, but it's not really fixed. I mean, it's what I had forgotten is that I still had the old rear cage, and so this piece here is actually a piece that you screw on to the rear cage. You know, it goes something like this. So I took the old one and just took this piece out. So, and now I have this fully intact with the ability to screw the screw on, because this screws onto the shock tower like so. So that's cool that we got that done. All right, so let's concentrate on the front here, because I want to take the aluminum pieces, the reinforcement from the other one, from the original chain drive one, and put it on here. So we're going to take this out. So let's start with that. Let's take this whole thing apart as soon as I can find my screwdriver here. I also wanted to preserve, these are not original, I can tell. So I want the original ones as well. So I'm going to take this out. That goes to the steering. So I want to make sure I keep this together so this don't lose that screw. Look at that belt. That gear's different. That's pretty cool. All right, so let's get this thing out here. Everything looks to be intact, so we're going to replace this on the 4-wheel drive with the new one that we have. But now we need to take everything off of here. These go to the steering pieces. And I'm going to take the steering with me, so onto the other chassis, because this is the original steering. Right, so I should be able to slide this right out. Let's see what happens. Oop. Well, the best laid plans. There we go. And now I need the steering stuff to come with me. Okay. Let's unscrew it. There we go. All right. You can see here the chain, the difference between the chain and the belt. Sprocket's a little different, obviously, because this is chain driven. All right. So let's get this one back together now. Okay, let's continue where we left off here. Start with this bottom covering. Put this in place. That's better. All right. Okay, so got to put this in place. Really, I should have done the steering thing before. Well, it wouldn't have mattered because the belt was still in the way, but probably would have been a little bit easier. Yeah, I need to get this steering plate in there first, and then get the steering servo. I mean the servo steering thing right above it. So it's just going to be easier for me to just do it off camera because I can't do this one hand at a time. So I'll be right back. Okay. So I know it probably sucks that I did this off camera, but it just was a lot easier for me since I can't do this one-handed. But I want you to see how the steering rack here works. You know, looks like it's kind of binding against this right here. So I'm thinking I may have to slide this back a little bit, the chassis back a little bit, to keep it from binding against the transmission there, because that's what it's doing. So I'll move that back a little bit. I think I just need to loosen some of these screws and then push this forward. So, because you can see that there's a little bit of room for play. So I think that's what'll happen, and then I can stop that binding. It's not much. It's like not even like a 1/16 of an inch. So I'm going to do that next, get that out of the way. Although it's plastic, so, you know, if I just play with it just a little bit, it'll just eat some of that plastic on the tranny case away, and then this will be fine. But let me loosen some screws just to get this binding out of the way, and then we'll keep going. So this guy goes underneath, so you have to be careful with this one. You'll see that they're notched right here, and those notches go up against the belt unit here. It won't fit any other way. Okay, so there you go. That's where we're at so far. So let's go ahead and start putting in, let's do the shocks. Let's do the front shocks. I know this table's a mess, but well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear this table off, and I'll be right back. Okay, it's a little bit cleaner now. So let's start with putting this guy back on here. So this goes underneath because it's threaded. So it goes just like that. And it takes two 3x6 machine screws, but we don't have 3x6 in black anyways. So I'm using 3x8s. But as I said before, we'll probably change up and go to Allen head screws later anyways. So I'm not too worried about this for now. Okay, so we got that on there. Let's go ahead and put the front shocks on here, and let's get the front bumper on next. But before we do that, we're going to clean these up just a little bit. You know, technically I should rebuild these, but I don't have the shock rebuilding kit for these Kyoshos. So we'll get to it one of these days. For now, we'll just leave them as is. Okay. Gotta get the little nuts on here. Okay. That's the front shocks. It's we could do the front bumper next, but before we do that, we need to put a couple of screws in here. trying to catch the bolt. There's a 4mm bolt that goes in there. Here we go. All right. So that pretty much wraps up the front. Let's attack the back. Let's do the shocks. Okay. Okay, so we're almost done with this first build, the Javelin. We're gonna put the motor on, put the gear cover on, put some wheels on, and then I think that will wrap this guy up, and then we can concentrate on the Optima. So I have a Kyosho motor that I can put in here, but the thing with the motor is that it's a Le Mans LE 240 SB. Just don't think this. I just don't know about this on this buggy. Not to mention the fact it's a new motor. It's still in the box. Not that I really have any qualms about taking it out of the box. In fact, I'll be doing that with an Avante restoration, taking a 540Z VZ out of the box. But what I think I'm going to do with this guy is I'm going to use an AYK motor. The AYK motors are just beautiful motors, but they're kind of big. So we're going to see, how this goes. So I love using these motors. They're beautiful in color. This is a 480R, which should be, powerful enough. So let's see how this is going to look. Plus it'll match the gold Nerf bars. And I didn't have time, it didn't get here in time for this video, but I did order a gold bottom protective plate for this as well. So that'll round it out pretty nicely. So this will go in here as such. And I think that's gonna look pretty rad. So let's go ahead and put the pinion gear on here. And I think we have to put the motor through first. Let me see this pinion. Yeah, it's not gonna go through the special pinion, so it's not gonna go through the bracket there. So we'll have to put it on this side. So let's start with that. First things first. So I'm going to put the motor, I'm going to mount the motor first, and then we'll mount the pinion afterwards. Okay, that's lining up pretty decently right there. I think I can tighten the pinion down. And then we're going to make sure it meshes up so it's not too loose and not too tight, which is right about there, I think. Yeah, that's nice. Okay. Isn't that beautiful? I just love the way that gold fits in nicely. So now we're going to put this cover on, and it's a clear cover. We have one of these Kyoshos, but I think this is a repro cover that's solid, but I cleaned this up. It's a nice clear vintage cover. In order for me to fit it over this, I'm going to need to take this out here. So I'm going to pop this out real quick. Okay, there's already a screw here, but it wasn't intended to screw into anything. It was just intended to help keep the case in place. I realized that after I tried to unscrew it and it cracked the case. There's another one on the other side, and the same. I don't think the other one on the other side is intended to be threaded in either. So this case actually is held in place really nicely by that one screw on the top that's kind of pushed into the recess, and the clip here. So we'll just go ahead and put this back. Love the way that snaps. Okay, so now we're back in business. We got our motor in place, got the gear cover in place. Just pushing that in. Okay. That's not going anywhere. All right. So now we got our wheels and tires, and we're almost at the end of the road here, almost at the finish line. So let me get the wheels and tires. So I've got these originals, hard to find these days. For sure, and if you do, they're kind of expensive. Not worth it in my opinion, but you know, that's the way it is when you want to get the original vintage stuff. So got to make sure that you have these facing the right way. And you know, the right way is kind of like the triangles going, this is going towards the back. Okay, so you know that this is the front. Okay, so we know that's one front. That's the other. That's the other side here. Not sure if I captured this in the video, so I'm going to do this again. So the front is the bigger part of this kind of triangular, and then this kind of goes to the back. So you know this is going to be the front. Same thing here. You know that flat piece on here is going to face the front. Same thing here, this flat piece with the triangle facing going towards the back is going to go here, and that leaves this one other tire there. Okay. So let's go ahead and put these puppies on. All right, and we are actually just missing one last little thing before we wrap this guy up, and that is we need the wing. And I have just the thing for that. This is an original vintage Kyosho special chrome wing. So there we go. I do have the decal, an original decal sheet for this, but I'm not going to go bothering trying to put all the decals on. I think you can pretty much figure that out. So this wing needs to be cut. So we'll just cut it along the lines here, and then it should fit. These little tabs should fit just right over here. So I'm going to do that off camera, and let's hope I don't mess that up. Okay, so when it comes to cutting bodies, wings, anything of plastic, Lexan, whatever it is, I like to, well, first of all, first and foremost, always change your blade. Use a brand new blade. It needs to be sharp, because what we're going to do is score the plastic, and then after we score it, it'll just snap in the places that we've scored it. If you have a dull blade or a blade that isn't extremely sharp, it's going to make scoring very difficult. So it's worth keeping extra blades, and it's worth replacing them every time you're going to cut a new body. So then I like to outline everything where I'm going to cut with tape. So sometimes it protects the plastic, but not really, because this knife is so sharp. If you go through and mess up and go into the tape, it'll leave a scratch, because again, the knife is so sharp. But I like to cover my lines. So I'm going to do this a little bit off camera because the glare of the lights is really killing this, and I can't see where the lines are. So bear with me for a second here. Okay, so that's where that line is going to go. And then these lines are pretty solid, so that'll be easy to tape out. I want to leave a little bit of a lip here. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Close enough is fine. Okay, so there's our cut. And then come up here. cut right to there and come up here and cut right. Okay. All right. So now we're ready. So I do this on the corner of the table. So I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage. So I'm going to go ahead and score this and I will be right back. Okay. So I went ahead and scored these two sides here. And I'm going to use the scissors to cut the rest. So the sides that are scored, I should be able to just kind of bend and crack at the line. So that's what we're going to do here. Okay, since I scored it here with a knife, I should be able to bend and snap this just like that. That's why you use a sharp knife. All I did was put a small line across this, and you can see how clean that just snaps right off. Oh my gosh, this is so old that unfortunately, oh, what a shame, the tape started peeling off some of the chrome. Well, that kind of sucks. I guess that's where the decals will come in to hide that. That's way too bad. I mean, this thing is 30 years old, so I had it sitting around forever. Okay, it is what it is. Can't cry over spilled milk. Learn from my mistakes. Don't use blue tape on plastic chrome. That's 30 years old anyways. Okay, again, I scored it. You can see the score mark there with the knife. Should be able to bend this. And boom, right on the score mark. Perfectly straight. So now we just cut the sides at this point. And rather than trying to get the knife to cut, you know, all the curves and everything, I use the scissors. And just follow the trail. On the straight lines, keep away from the front of the scissors. The front of the scissors curve, and that helps you with the curves. Okay. There you go. Do the same on the other side. The closer to the front of these scissors, the tighter you can cut a curve. So there we go. That matches up. Got the side here. This doesn't quite match up here. I'm just going to cut a little bit more off this thing. There we go. All right. So there's our wing. And it should slide right smack into these little tabs here. Let me get this out of the way. So these two tabs should line right up here. There we go. Helps if I put it the right way. All right. So there we go. That is finished. And then what you do is get little pieces of felt. And then once you have the little pieces of felt around this to protect the plastic, then you can place a couple of the cotter pins, you know, to hold the wing in place through here. So there you go. Now I think we can call this done. So this was our first build. So we have a true vintage Javelin in all its glory here, with hop-ups. The gold shocks are hop-ups, period of the period. The front reinforcement, the same. The gold Nerf bars on the side, the same. A true vintage wing, true vintage tires or wheels. The tires are current tires. I would have loved to have gotten the Optima tires that say Goodyear on them. These are typically replaced with tires a little bit larger, wheels and tires a little bit larger in diameter. I'll show you here. So this is what we started with before we got the vintage. So these are kind of worn, so they're probably just a little bit bigger than these, but certainly they're low profile tires, and the wheels are bigger in size. They just have a nicer look to them if you know, are into that. This is what came with that, the other car. So anyways, I wanted this to keep this as vintage as possible, so that's why we have those particular wheels on the car right now. So there you go. So this is the first build, Javelin. The only thing that we're going to do is, I had showed you earlier, there's 4 screws right here that hold a little square piece of plastic that kind of protects the chain. In this case, it's belt driven. But really what that is you unscrew the 4 screws, you put double-sided tape, and that's where that's where the servo sticks to. So the servo is stuck to that little, the little plastic plate underneath here held by these 4 screws. That's your steering servo, and that's where that's held in place. And typically you would have servo in the back for your mechanical speed controller. Was debating on putting it on here. It's so busy, I'll probably maybe do it on the Optima, but we really wouldn't need that servo plate there because we'll use a modern ESC on it if we decide to do that. Otherwise, another option is you could put a servo there and put a tie rod all the way to the front and make that your steering servo instead of sticking a servo underneath the plate here. So there's options. There's always options with servos. So anyways, there you go. That's part 1. So stay tuned for part 2, which is our Optima 4-wheel drive build. That's going to be next. So hope you enjoyed.